18th. Okay, we are recording Team Legacy Fit call June 18th, 2020. So tonight's topic is going to be sharing your story. And before we get into that, I do want to start, and we're going to start every call going forward off. I know a lot of different Beachbody teams like to do recognition. And at some point we'll do more of a traditional recognition, but I kind of like team contributions with recognition. So I'm going to throw it out there. If anybody has anything to recognize another team member for, feel free to unmute and share. But I'll start it off. I want to recognize Meredith for starting her Instagram and Facebook stories and doing awesome sharing on those two platforms. Also want to recognize Marcy for hopping on a call earlier today with my personally sponsored coach, Brooke, and getting to know her and sharing her story and just being outgoing in our challenge group and reaching out to other challengers to get to know people better. And that is not an easy thing to do. So I wanted to recognize you for that. So you guys both kicked ass this week. So awesome. So you guys may not have anything to share right now, but feel free to share anything. But if not, I'm going to move on to sharing your story. So the way to share your story is you want to focus on connecting with your audience. And you want them to feel and imagine your story. And we talked about this a little bit last week when I brought up parts of my story and I asked you guys questions and you knew it right off the bat, even though we hadn't talked about it at that call. And that's because I went through, and I credit Pat Reelman for sharing this with me. I know he got it from a network marketing guru named Eric Worre. But Pat really explained it to me in such an amazing way. And there's really 4 parts of sharing your story. And the first part is you want to share who you are. Okay. And I'm just going to go over the 4 points quick, and then we'll take a deep dive into each one of them. But the first point is you want to share who you are, where you came from. So what are you? The second part that you want to share is what your problem is. What was the problem that happened? Maybe it's, you gained weight, or you got too busy, life got out of control, whatever your problem is. That's the second part of the story that you want to share. And most of the people that you're trying to connect with, and this really needs to be your focus. Most of the people you're trying to connect with they're in that part 2. Okay. Unfortunately, most coaches live in part 3. And that's what they share mostly. But you do have to share it. But all of their posts are solely about part 3, and they focus only about part 3. They skip parts 1. They skip parts 2. Part 3 is what the solution is. And then part 4 is your feelings about the future, about your future now that you've found that solution. So again, part 1 is who you are, where you came from. Part 2 is the problem that you face. Part 3 is the solution that you found. And part 4 is your feelings or perspective on your future now that you've found that solution. Like I said, Most coaches, when they share their story, they only share and they live in number 3. Beachbody, 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 Beachbody. And that's not where your audience is. When you're talking to people, you're talking to people who are in and living currently number 2. You may have, and this, has happened to me. I've lost 70 pounds and I got off cholesterol meds. So I could be sitting there just doing bicep curls all day and saying, oh, Beachbody is so great for building muscle. But that's not who I am. I share about who I am. I'm a dad. I'm a former college football player. I'm a husband. I'm a family guy. I'm a dog owner. And that gets people to connect with me. Other dads, moms, dog owners, dudes with beards, men and women who like to drink whiskey. Things about me draw them to actually listen. But then I talk about my problem. And my problem was that after my playing days were over and I started to actually focus on college and graduating with a respectable GPA, I started to exercise less and I started to be more busy and I started to gain weight. First it was 20, 25 pounds before I left college. And then, I got married and got out into the workforce, started working, started getting promoted in my jobs, getting more responsibility, getting busier and busier and busier, and not making the time for myself to work on myself and keep myself healthy. And that led to someone who entered college. My playing weight was 165 pounds when I was 18 years old, to someone who turned 40 weighing 227 pounds. Someone who had 3 young boys, who was having difficulty keeping up with them, who was winded after just climbing 1 flight of stairs, and who was worried about dying from cardiovascular disease by the time he was 45. But that's when I found Beachbody, which is my number 3. And when I found Beachbody, I looked at it as a total solution because, everybody knows exercise is good for you. Everybody knows eating healthy is good for you. But Beachbody puts those things together, and then they provide the key, and that is us, coaching, accountability, someone to pat you on the back, someone to make you feel like you're not showing up for just yourself, because you will quit on yourself a lot quicker than you quit on a team. And I never quit on my football team, but I was quitting constantly on myself. And when I started with Beachbody, I had a good friend of mine who was doing the programs with me, and he and I were a 2-person team. He would do the workouts, text me, I would do the workouts and text him. And we kept each other accountable. And then when I became a Beachbody coach, the accountability was just like on steroids. I met so many like-minded people who were just trying to be the best version of themselves and bringing me into this community. And I was the furthest thing from a fitness guy. Never dreamed that I would be able to see my abs or have any respectable bicep to show on Flex Friday. But this community helped me to show up every day, and they gave me genuine friendship. And that's how I solved my problem. Number 2 got solved by this community. Beachbody was the answer for me. So when it comes to, how I feel about the future, I'm so excited about the future because I know that this is not a passing fad for me. This isn't a diet. This isn't a few solid weeks at the gym. This isn't, getting ready to look good at a wedding or something like that. This is a lifestyle change. And that gives me so much happiness for the future because now, 6 years later, I feel 20 years younger. And I'm not even exaggerating. When I was 40, I felt like I was 60. I'm 46 now, and I feel like I'm 26. And that's what this has done for me. And, I'm sharing the different steps of the story. And there are so many different ways that you can go through and share your story right from the beginning. You don't have to share every single little thing about you in each post or each time you share your story, but bring up different parts of it. Talk about who you are. Talk about why it was so difficult to eat healthy, or talk about times where you tried to get fit and failed. Talk about things that are not your strength. Marcy, you and I talked about your fitness and where you feel your strength is nutrition. But share about the fitness aspects and how it's challenging for you. And what you're doing to solve those challenges and how you feel. Maybe your outlook is, I can't, at this point, I still can't see myself as becoming a fitness or an exercise person, but I found a solution that I feel I can stick with every day and incorporate it into my healthy eating. Something like that. Talk about things other than that, outside, things that happen in your life that brought you into coaching. And that's there's the two different styles. Two different types of telling your story. There's many different stories you can tell. You can tell about your fitness story. You can tell about your personal story, about how you overcame any challenge. Talk about your coaching story. What led you to want to be a coach? Meredith, this is kind of your second go in being a coach. Talk about that. The key is that you're open to being vulnerable, because remember what I said at the beginning. You're talking to people who are currently in stage 2. They're stuck in stage 2. Your job is to present stage 3 to them, but you want to connect with them at stage 2. So you got to go back in time, and you've got to share who you are in stage 1, and you've got to share what your problem was in stage 2, because that person's going to be like, you know what? That's the exact same problem I have. And they're going to be, how did she deal with it? How did she get out of this rut? How did she get, what is her stage 3? And they're not going to be thinking in the numbers, but they're going to be thinking, We have the same problem. What was her solution? And then you can share it. For me, I've connected with so many people who have cholesterol issues. And they're like, my doctor, I get people like, my doctor has told me that I'm going on cholesterol meds next month if my numbers don't go down. Or my doctor, or people who are already on cholesterol meds. And just like me, they never even considered the fact that they could get off them. Even when I started this, I never dreamed that my doctor would tell me to flush the remaining pills in the bottle down the toilet. And like, I walked into my physical and she's like, I want to try something. Your cholesterol numbers are really good. I want to take you off them for 3 months. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? I had been on them for almost 10 years. I was relying on them. They were my crutch. They were my way of going out, eating whatever the hell I wanted, because I could just pop that little pink pill and it would keep my cholesterol in check. And it scared the shit out of me to get off of those meds, even for 3 months. My doctor said, you'll be fine. If your numbers go up, we'll put you right back on. 3 months later, doing my P90X3 and drinking my Shakeology, I strolled in, nervously took my test, and then later on, I got a call, and I'll always remember my doctor's assistant and how she said it. And she said, Joe, just wanted to give you a call. Your labs are perfect. Your labs are perfect. Have a nice day. And my doctor called me later on. She gave me the actual numbers, and she said, 3 months off of cholesterol meds, and your numbers actually went down further. And she's like, you can take the rest of your pills and you can flush them down the toilet. You don't need them anymore. And that's the type of story, a story within a story, that you can share. You want to, and not every post needs to be like this. Not every time on your stories needs to be like this. Your audience is going to want to see the fun parts of you too, and just maybe playing with your dog or playing with your kids. But when you are sharing your story, you want to connect on a very emotional level with your story. You don't want your audience to look at your before and afters or your workout video clip and say, so what? You want them to see you. Marcy, you're looking for the other Marcys in the world. The people who are just like you. Meredith, you're looking for the other Merediths. So you're going to hear this quite a bit, about finding your avatar and speaking to that person. So when I talk, I think about the 40-year-old Joe who had basically given up and thought he might only have 5 years left to live. That's the guy I speak with. That's the girl I speak with. I speak to the parents who are afraid that they won't be there to see their kids grow up. And then I let them know that I will move heaven and earth to change that with them. And that it is possible. So do you guys see what I did there? And how I shared parts of my story in there and got emotional? And that's what you need to do when you're sharing your story. You need to connect. And you need to focus in a very authentic way to connect to your own emotions. You're not trying to fool anybody. You're trying to connect to your own emotions, because when you do, you're talking to your avatar. You're talking to the people who are going to become your tribe and who are going to become your followers. Okay? So, short call tonight. Any questions on sharing your story, sharing your, like where to share your story, how to share your story, what to talk about? Cool.
Makes sense.
All right. All right, so I will post the recording a little bit later tonight. This will be a lot shorter. We got half an hour call, less than a half an hour call, so that's good. Makes up for last week when we went about an hour and a half. So, anyone have any questions about anything? Any other topics you want to talk about? No? All right. Marcy's already sick of me. We had a call earlier before this meeting, so.
I took notes.
You did. Awesome. So I'm going to organize all these team calls so that they're easy to, I'm going to create a Google Doc with all the links, and I'll attach it in our team page. But it'll be easy to find them that way. All right. But I'll still post them in the group too, so you can find them quick. All right. Well, you ladies have an awesome night, and we will talk next week. All right.
Sounds good. Thanks, Joe.
All right. Take care.
Bye, Meredith.
Bye.